Do Sunday nights get you down? It's time to bring back Sunday supper. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the focus group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Be sure to find out more about us at focusgroupradio.com. And you can catch our live show every Wednesday at 1 p.m. East. And don't forget to check out our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is released every Tuesday. You can also find out through our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio. Although we got in a little trouble with our Facebook page. We posted something apparently that wasn't allowed, so I've got to
Like what?
reboot that. I don't know. I just had a big warning, so I have to go back and look and see what was posted or what other people posted. We didn't meet the standards of the social media app.
Really?
Yeah,
I find that super hard to believe considering
all this
the crap
time
that I've seen on Facebook.
Listen,
right?
nobody was more shocked than me. So we'll see.
We post a super benign, funny little thing. It must be,
I'll find out what it is. Let you know.
but the page isn't shut down.
Well, they had put it on halt. It was halted. And it was red. I've never had this happen. Little things were coming up, and then I looked at what I wrote, and I thought, I can't figure out what's wrong with this, and it didn't adhere to standards. Meanwhile, that Carol Sandburg or whatever her name is, the one that runs Facebook, or she's one of the ones, or Randy something. I don't even know what her name is.
Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah. Anyway, she was talking about how it's impossible to monitor Facebook. I thought, really? Because you're doing it. Anyway.
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I narrowed it down. I think it might be. So a few weeks ago, we had posted something about, it was on TFG Unbuttoned. We had done something about the Crew Club in D.C. closing, which was a male bathhouse, or a bathhouse. And then a listener contacted us and said, in fact, it didn't close. They had a last-minute reprieve, and they were able to get some money. Something happened, so that conversation was in there, and I thought maybe that triggered the it's a no-no. I thought maybe the Crew Club in D.C. triggered
I guess the question I would have is, do you even talk to a human being about this?
Well, I went through and I immediately went into all of our, the back of house of all of the items, and then it wouldn't let me delete. It wouldn't let me delete anything. I thought, well, I'll just delete all the messages, and then it wouldn't. So I just went and logged out, logged in again. It was all gone. So, but we'll see. It's funny.
Kind of, I suppose. But knowing the stuff that people put on, and let's not forget, Zuckerberg actually said that they were going to allow all types of political advertising, even the ones that are lies. So why wouldn't you put a halt on that, right?
That was you read my mind. That's exactly what I thought. I thought we're talking about a business that's closed, I guess an adult business that's closing, but that's
I find it hard to believe that would have been the halt. Because you could say a shoe store down the road is going out of business, and then a week later someone says, no, they're not. They paid the lease.
Yeah, I could. Well, listen, nobody was more shocked than me.
Yeah, we're kind of almost, I don't want to say bland, but our humor doesn't run towards the halt.
We're very careful.
Yeah.
We're very careful. Back from our days of being on satellite, which was supposed to be the Wild West, which it never was.
No. So. Way over on Howard Stern it was.
Well, yeah.
Even then, as he matured, the tone of that whole show changed as well. So
it was no longer daring, because you could supposedly say what you wanted. Hey, we have a sponsor, as many of you know, called Fiverr, Fiverr. If you go to Fiverr.com, if you're looking for a freelancer, a freelance artist to do everything from web design, logo design, a marketing plan, copywriting, all kinds of things. If you use the code FOCUS, FOCUS, when you go to Fiverr, you'll get 10% off your first order. So John, about probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, mentioned we were going to use Fiverr to develop a new logo for our company, Tribury. So if you go to, so we have some slides here if you're listening through and watching us through the video feed. We put up on one of our slides, so there it is there. Those are the original logos. You did all those, didn't you, John?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So those logos were all done by John. So John and I have a company aside from the focus group here of Tribury Productions, which is a marketing and advertising agency and consulting business. And those were our logos. Now, I still like the zipper one.
Yeah, so Tim, if you're listening, our earlier logos referenced the fact that we had the focus group as a radio show. Right. So one logo for Tribury, Tribury, the I is a microphone. And in another version of the logo, right after the word Tribury, there's 3 little stacks, and that's supposed to be those little bars that used to be on your receiver for the
treble and bass.
The levels, yeah. And then we ended up with our current logo that says Tribury and with the tagline, relevant content, tailored, and there's a zipper graphic.
Right.
We used to say we were zipped up. Or buttoned up.
So what we did is we went to Fiverr. We decided we wanted to update our logo. So we went to Fiverr and contacted 3 different designers or graphic.
Now the we part is you did
artists.
this. Tim
took
the lead.
But John had guidance because John said, make sure you do a creative brief, make sure you give everybody the same information. And so we picked a $10 person, a $75 person, and $150. The $150 was from Australia. The $75 was from Bangladesh, and the $10 person, as an experiment, was from Germany with very little English skill.
Yeah.
So the next slide, after the slide that showed our old logos, these are what we got back. Not all of them, but these are some of what we got back, and it was interesting. We were excited. It was kind of like kids at Christmas, but the most expensive one in our case ended up not being anything that we wanted to use.
Yeah, and the middle of the road was the...
Middle of the road, the one on the right, again, if you're watching on the video, is
closest.
An example of what happened, and then, or the closest that came. Then the next slide kind of goes toward the direction we want to go in, and then the third slide will show you what we're working with. And now John was able to download all of this source data and work with it and kind of refine it even more. The interesting thing about Fiverr as well, and again, I learned this from John, you can go even less expensive, but you want the source material, right?
Yeah, you do want the source file. So we ended up with, I think we're going to end up using the logo here on the right. It's the word Tribury, and the graphic. What the designer did was he took a font called Optician Sans. It's exactly what they use to create the eye chart you read at the DMV or the doctor's office. It's a very specific sans serif Helvetica type font. He customized it, and the only thing we did was we added a bar over the I to make it a long I for Tribury. But it's more of a visual thing than anything else. But we were, I think our middle of the road guy did a pretty great job, huh?
Right, and I think you were going to
change colors,
change it to blue maybe, but it was surprising because we had expectations that we paid twice as much for this guy from Australia who asked 1 million questions.
All the right questions too, yeah.
And all the right questions, and this other guy that we used, the designer from Bangladesh, was responsive. It was great. He followed, I think, exactly what we wanted to do, and I think he pretty much nailed it.
I'm happy with what he did, and I'm going to tighten up a little, tweak and he for those who care, he submitted the file as an Adobe Illustrator file, which means we have ultimate access to the font and everything. So as Tim said earlier, when you go to Fiverr, if you want to start a project with Fiverr, Fiverr.com, you can search by service. Tim, a few weeks ago, found out you could search by deadline.
Yeah.
I need it tomorrow. You could search by reviews or by price. We followed through on what I've told you before about this. By having 3 different price points, we ended up getting a range, and we did, in fact, get what we wanted. So as we said earlier, if you take advantage of Fiverr, then use the focus group discount code. It's 10% off your first offer, and the code is FOCUS, and that's at Fiverr, Fiverr.com. We have more projects to share with you from people who've been using Fiverr, so the next time we talk about Fiverr, we'll be sharing with you a project our friend Lori did, right?
She did. She's
thrilled with it.
Well, the great thing is anyone who's done a logo, and John will tell you this from his years of doing design work, to be able to get as much information as we did for under $250 is remarkable.
Amazing, yeah. And it automatically had a range to choose. And you knew right away. You looked at something, you're like, oh, that's not us. But hey, I get where they're going.
Yeah, yeah. So cool. So what caught your eye this week, Mr. Nash?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Rembrandt caught my eye, or better stated, that dream we all have of going to a flea market and buying something and realizing there's a Declaration of Independence.
Does Bob have that dream?
Trust me.
Or because you're a lot more skeptical. Is this more Bob having the dream? I'm going to find the treasure. He's like Matt and Richard.
Because they know. So you think you're going to peel something off the back but this is one of those cases where a museum in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Oh, really? Allentown.
They had what they thought was a Rembrandt, and then they were told it was not a Rembrandt. And so they thought, okay, and it had been donated. So it's an unknown 17th century artist who painted a painting called Portrait of a Young Woman. Girl Admiring Pearls. I love the names of paintings. Hung for decades at the Allentown Art Museum in PA, and it was considered good, but no Rembrandt, or so people thought, for almost 50 years after it was donated. Despite the fact that the painting was bequeathed in 1961 as an authentic Rembrandt, they didn't really believe the guy, so it was donated. It's a really nice. We like Portrait of a Young Woman, but it's not a Rembrandt. So they discovered it was, though, when they sent the painting out to be restored and cleaned, and it went to New York University for conservation purposes. They removed tons of layers of old varnish that had accumulated over the years.
Red smoke.
Yeah, exactly. And then they began a process of looking at it under a microscope and with the scanning, and they realized that the brushwork, which is how they identify a painter actually, matched up with Rembrandt. So with the scientific analysis, X-ray, infrared electron microscope, a bunch of experts were brought in, and they're like, you know what? This is in fact a Rembrandt. So I don't know if they didn't put a value on it because Rembrandts are pretty expensive, but it's going back on display at the Allentown Art Museum in PA on June 7th. You can go see Portrait of a Young Woman, which is now officially a Rembrandt, even though it was always a Rembrandt.
Did they give you the name of the person at the Allentown Museum?
No.
Somebody you know.
No way.
Leave it at that.
Is it like somebody I know, like name?
Somebody you know, but I can't say the name on air.
I think I know who you're talking about. Was that one of the
From
people?
the Pines.
Yes. No way. That's where that person ended up?
Supposedly. I was wondering whether the name was going to come up. When you mentioned Allen, I was like, oh my God.
No, you mentioned this to me. You told me this before about him. We'll only say this. This was an individual. This is way back in the 90s.
Well, I won't say anymore.
We're
the boys in the booth today.
Yeah, guys, how you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Fantastic.
We'll get off that.
I got shut down.
I'm sure we'll get questions. Okay, what caught my eye? This is, I thought this was sweet. I don't know, it was kind of sappy. A Mississippi hotel lets guests foster dogs during their stay, and since October 2018, they've actually found homes for over 60 dogs since 2018. So a woman the manager, Teresa Johnson, she's director of sales at the Home 2 Suites by Hilton in Mississippi, and it's a lot of military people there and families and people that do long stay at these suites or hotel rooms, so long-term 30 days, 45 days. And she said while people would settle in, she always felt there was something missing for the guests. So she said, you know what, they're missing pets. And so the hotel's pet friendly. So she contacted the local ASPCA and said, hey, with any of your dogs, would you mind giving us a dog each, one dog, and we'll have them in the lobby, and then people can take them for a walk or feed them or have them go to the room or whatever. And obviously the shelter was excited about it, and they did it. And they said that what's happened is people fall in love with a lot of these dogs, and they get adopted.
So cool. I thought the premise was going to be a dog per room, or you could actually, if there's a 5 puppies or dogs in the lobby, you could say maybe one can come to the room.
Like the Kimpton with a goldfish. Yeah, no, she said, and some of the dogs obviously are easier than others. Some are afraid of men, for instance. Some are afraid of or have separation anxiety. She said they all come with some sort of baggage. But, for instance, that little Chihuahua that's shown there, apparently she had heard a Chihuahua was coming, and she said, oh, my God, I'm going to want it. She said the second the dog walked in, she ended up adopting the Chihuahua. But they said it's been a great thing. The guests love it. People can get out of the rooms, walk with the dogs. They said the dogs are funny in the lobby. They're hanging out with people, greet people. And I thought from a marketing lesson, this was pretty smart. I said it actually did 2 things. One of them is She said there's a lot of hotels like us, but this was their point of differentiation. It's got a lot of news. And she fulfilled a need. She saw a need for her guests. And so I thought from a marketing plan, here's this woman that said, you know what? People are here a long-term stay. They don't have pets. Let's provide a pet sort of thing. Let's do good with the ASPCA, and let's be different than some of the other hotels. So I thought it was a good story.
So to go to your marketing point, as you were saying that, the origin of the program, though, started with a heartfelt desire to give people more of a home feeling, and once she decided that maybe it was a pet that would do that, now I can help the local animal shelter.
Right. They provide the homeless pets.
So I think it's an interesting back-ended way into, and guess what? From a marketing point of view, now you've differentiated your property, like you just said. I think it's very clever.
So the Hilton's paying attention. They're thinking they might roll this program out at a number of the long-term stay properties that they have. So that was a good idea.
Do you think that the members of the animal shelter or the ASPCA are available to take care of the pets at all? Or, I mean, they drop them off at the hotel, but there's stuff like feeding and...
Yeah, no, the hotel does all that.
Really?
The hotel feeds them and makes sure they get walked and cleaned up after. And obviously typical of other foster dogs, I believe the shelter or the ASPCA makes sure that they're not sending you Cujo. You know, I mean, it's... right, so...
Could you imagine? Yeah.
So
Send the pit bull.
Our business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
This is one of those birthdays where I got in the weeds, and you can get in the weeds real easy with, but I'm going to try to give you the short version, although I find his life somewhat fascinating. Lawrence Welk.
Oh, my God. There's no short version for Lawrence Welk.
Born on this day, March 11th, 1903. He died May 17th in 92 at 89 years old. An American musician, accordionist, band leader, and also a real estate developer, which I did not know. He hosted the television program The Lawrence Welk Show from 1951 to 1982. His style became known as light and bubbly and identified as champagne music, light and bubbly. He was born in German-speaking North Dakota. He didn't learn English until he was 21. Imagine. I guess they were teaching German in the schools there.
Unless he was from home, could it be homeschooled? Or something?
Well, he lived on a farm. He only went, I think he didn't go that far in school. But he's related to, or was related to, the former Montana governor, Brian Schweitzer. His family lived on a homestead in North Dakota, spent their first winter in an upside-down wagon covered in sod.
Just like the Ingalls family,
Like
the
the
Soddy.
Ingalls family. He wanted a career in music and persuaded his father to buy a mail-order accordion for $400. That would be the equivalent today of over $5,000. That's a lot. Can you imagine?
Well, he must have done a good convincing job.
So he promised his father that if he bought him this accordion, that he would work on the farm until he was 21, which he did. But at 21, he left to go pursue a career in music, joined a bunch of bands, and would play all around the Midwest, and then caught the eye of more and more people, and ended up touring beyond the Midwest.
What year was when he was
30s?
So TV's in its early days.
Yeah, but it was more big band stuff.
Okay.
They said that he would open up for people like Benny Goodman or Duke Ellington. He was a traveling band. One called the Hotsy Totsy Boys and one the Honolulu Fruit Gum Orchestra.
Both of those I would go rework in a focus group, but
They were so poor they couldn't even afford rooms. They slept in their cars. They said the term champagne music was derived from an engagement at the William Penn Hotel in Pittsburgh. So a dancer referred to their sounds as light and bubbly, and someone at the hotel ended up remembering they had a bubble machine as a prop left over from a 1920s movie premiere, so they plugged it in while the band played, and then Lawrence loved the idea and used bubbles ever since.
all right. So do you know who else had a weird fixture that happened it was Liberace and the Candelabra?
Yeah, was it really?
I think that was not
Same sort of thing?
Yeah, you have a prop, you have a shtick, and in his case, it was the bubbles, which I remember when I watched with my grandma. Right?
Yeah, I loved it. They said during his first year on the air, he instituted several regular features, Lawrence, that he would do with his champagne music as a tagline visual. He wanted to use the bubble machine. He said that's how he was going to visualize champagne music with this bubble machine. He said the problem was the one machine that they got out in L.A. where they did the show was engineered to produce soap bubbles, and the band complained because it would build up on all the instruments and start tasting like soap. So they had to find one that they could rework and make it use glycerin bubbles. They said whenever he played, the orchestra played a polka or a waltz, Welk would dance with one of the female champagne ladies. They said this part was a little bit odd. They said Welk insisted on wholesome entertainment and said he was a stern taskmaster. For instance, one of the champagne ladies, Alice Lon, he fired her immediately. He thought she was showing too much leg during one of the dances. They said he was also highly involved with all of his stars' personal lives and often arbitrated their marital disputes.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Right? When you see the Me Too movement. So it goes on. Anyway, the show stopped in 1982, and it's been running on PBS ever since. He's got a place in Branson, Missouri. You can still go see the band. The band still tours the country. A little known fact about him, then, this is the pictures, the next two pictures that we have of him. He was a skillful businessman. He was a general partner in a commercial real estate development on 100 Wilshire Boulevard. So the one on the left there, if you're watching on the video.
You're talking Santa Monica?
Santa Monica, the tallest building in Santa Monica.
That
still.
was
Lawrence
his?
Welk built that with another designer. Next to it on the right is a group of high-end business office. And then to the right of that are condos that he built that look like a ship. It's all still there in Santa Monica.
Oh, yeah. I recognize exactly what
He
you're
lived in
looking
the one that looks like, if you go to the next, I think it's the next slide, the one that looks like the ship there.
at. Yeah.
That was the one he lived in at 1221 Ocean Avenue. It was a 16-story luxury apartment. He had his personal residence in there. They said that it was designed to resemble an ocean liner with a wedge-shaped bow and receding decks with railings. The air conditioner covers looked like smokestacks.
You know, I've walked by that building and I've seen that building.
That's where he lived.
But if
Till he
you don't
died.
get the perspective of that photograph, it's just a step back and you don't necessarily know it was designed to look like a ship, but oh my God, it really looks like the front one of those 20s posters or 30s, right?
Yeah, so and it goes on. He had a musically themed restaurant. He had a patent for an accordion themed serving tray and ashtray. Anyway, Lawrence Welk, I remember he's still on. I still watch him on Saturdays once in a while. I'll tune in and I'll laugh.
So did it go into any detail on how he actually ended up on TV?
Yeah, he was.
So he was doing the bands, he was touring, he was opening for famous musicians, but at some point, TV came knocking because back then they were desperate for content, right?
Right. So they said in 1951, after he traveled around a bit, he ended up in L.A., and they said he wanted to start. He himself produced the Lawrence Welk Show on KTLA Los Angeles, where it was broadcast from the Aragon Ballroom in Venice Beach. It became a local hit, and then ABC picked it up in 1955, and it ran for 31 years.
Oh my God.
And as corny and everything as it was, they only did standards. He said it all had to be. They said he was such a taskmaster about how the show was going to be and how people were going to act and dress. And
All right, so my grandmother, if a week went by that you did not see Lawrence Welk, something was wrong.
Yeah.
And in fact, in their world, it was Lawrence Welk, and I hate to say it, but Hee Haw. Later on, like I guess that was the 70s, right?
Yeah.
Hee Haw was right up there with Lawrence, because they're kind of two sides of the same
one
coin.
was a little,
edgier.
more risky.
Hee Haw was the edgier one.
The tank halter top, and
But I would sit with my grandmother, and when they did, like when you said that when they did the waltzes and stuff, the bubbles would come up, and it was that beautiful, that L and the W, the script. Yeah, and he's got the thing, and then he would put the wand down and dance with the woman. So formulaic. Why? I love it, right?
well, it's you know what, hard work. So happy birthday, Lawrence. So hey, many of you know our partner here on the Focus Group, Deep Discount. And if you go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo. They've got the Shark Madness site-wide sale going on right now.
Shark Madness.
Your shark needs to come visit us.
It's a pirate that sounds like a pirate that's supposed to be a shark. Anyway.
So what did you pick this week?
So for Shark Madness sale, I went down the science fiction rabbit hole because I was poking around, and I found a movie I haven't seen in a while, but it's one of my favorites from when I was growing up. Did you see the movie Logan's Run?
I remember it.
Okay, so it's Michael York and Farrah Fawcett's first screen debut.
Oh, really?
She played a woman that worked at this thing called New You. It's like a plastic surgery place that could change your appearance. So Michael York plays Logan, who is a sandman, and he's in charge of capturing anybody who runs on their 30th birthday, because on your 30th birthday, a crystal embedded in your hand starts glowing, and you go to this facility, and you basically get killed, but everybody believes you get renewed. You're going to come back again, because this is all in the far future. So I picked Logan's Run. A lot of you might remember seeing it, but in Blu-ray, it most certainly sparkles. Yeah. I got it like a while ago.
So I got to ask you a question. So you have a lot of you have a lot more movies than I do. So were you on a Saturday night? I don't know. I'll pick a night on it, whatever. Will you just go through your library and say, "Oh, I feel like watching this," or do you have any?
Sometimes we do. Like recently, we watched a Criterion disc that Lauren had got for me, My Man Godfrey. Carol Lombard and William Powell. And it's a comedy. It's black and white, and it is hilarious. Great dialogue. So what we do, though, we'll pick one, or if we're watching TV, and this is another Lauren from Deep Discount recommendation, how Logan's Run came about was that was on TV one day.
Oh.
And we start watching it, and I'm like, and the commercials start, and we turned it off, and I bought the disc. But in the future, if it's on again and I want to see it, pop the thing in and no more commercials. But that's how we do it, yeah.
Perfect. I picked, I also went through the sale. I picked a classic, National Lampoon's Vacation and National Lampoon's European Vacation. I think two of the best ones. I do like Christmas Vacation also, but obviously Chevy Chase, Randy Quaid, Beverly D'Angelo, Anthony Michael Hall, Imogen Coco, John Candy, Christy Brinkley. Written by John Hughes. It's a 2-pack. Format actually on Blu-ray is less money than the regular DVD. So for a price of $8.89, you can get both discs of the National Lampoon's Vacation, European Vacation. What I found interesting, I didn't know this about it. So John Hughes, who wrote it, this was based on a Rand McNally Road Atlas. That's how this happened.
Do you remember the Rand McNally Atlas? Right. We had one in the car. Everybody had one, right?
So John Hughes was working at a Chicago ad agency, and he kept pestering the editors of National Lampoon for writing assignments. And they kept blowing him off. So during a catastrophic blizzard in '79, he was snowbound, and he wrote a short story called Vacation 58 about a Detroit family that took an unfortunate trip to Disneyland.
Which ended up becoming Wally World.
So he says he laid out a Rand McNally Atlas and figured out from Detroit how the family would make this trip. And so that's how the different stops were put in there.
Okay.
He said he ended up publishing the article or the little story, and Warner Brothers immediately purchased the rights as soon as it was published, and he was invited to write the script. They had to change Disneyland, obviously, because of the R-rated material, so it became Wally World. But I thought, gosh, what a stroke of luck. I love John Hughes.
A, and B, he's sitting at a job. It's a blizzard out, and he comes up with an idea. It's a short story. Voila! Suddenly, Hollywood's knocking, and he's writing.
They did say he ruined the American station wagon forever.
I'll buy that. And that's one of your favorites.
What was the new release?
Released this week is a movie I definitely want to see. I heard several interviews with some of the stars and the director on NPR when it first came out. It's called Bombshell, and it's on Blu-ray. Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie. These are Academy Award winners and nominees. And John Lithgow plays Roger Ailes, which is kind of interesting to me to see John Lithgow play Roger Ailes.
Is this a riff on?
This is the real Bombshell. Is the who was the? Why am I spacing on the
Riley? Bill O'Reilly.
Guys, who was who turned in the whole? Who was the first one that tipped the domino over with Roger Ailes?
I don't know. It wasn't Megyn Kelly, right?
No.
She was the first one.
I think she was one of the first that led the pack. Yeah. So it's really this story is basically the story of how that whole Fox News thing happened with Megyn Kelly. It was the Me Too movement, basically. It's the kickoff of Me Too. The movie's got great reviews, and I think those three women, just those actresses, can really turn on a great script. So Bombshell on Blu-ray, highly recommend it. Yeah, and thank you, Garrett. You're right. It is the whole Megyn Kelly incident, which, as we just said, leads to Me Too. So go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the shark logo, the Shark Wide Madness site sale. I picked Logan's Run, classic 70s sci-fi movie, classic. Tim picked National Lampoon's Vacation and European Vacation. It's a double pack
Oh, double set.
for not much, $8.89 or $8.99 or something.
Can't beat it.
And the release this week is Bombshell on Blu-ray. What do we say, Garrett?
Thanks, deep discount.
All right, we're going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, we've got some shop talk for you, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Be sure to follow along with us every week. Go to focusgroupradio.com to find the archive of all of our audio and video programming. How about that?
Very nicely said.
Yeah. So, hey, our shop talk this week, I like this because I have a friend that instituted this, a couple of friends.
And by the way, this was set up for me.
And this was for you because I don't think
I
you do
got
it.
a solution for you.
So the headline is Sunday nights get you down. It's time to bring back Sunday supper. Now, when I read this was a ploy just to sell a book, I think.
You
Cookbook.
think? You think? I mean, the whole thing was about the guy's cookbook, but
The whole premise was a lot of people,
apprehension.
yeah, with Sundays come, and we all have kind of the
Oh, I get it.
Monday doldrums or,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, you have the weight of the week ahead
You
of you.
guys get Mondayitis?
The weight of the week ahead of you. I got all
Are
this-
you those kind of guys? Do you get Mondayitis?
I just wonder, they're called Sunday Scaries.
Sunday Scaries.
Like going to a horror movie or something?
I guess, or you just like the fear of.
Oh no, the Sunday Scaries.
Sunday
Got
Scar-
it.
I never
Okay.
heard that term before, but apparently people use it a lot. So yeah.
I used to get it. Not working here. This is fun, so I don't care. Mondays are fine. But I used to go into a purposeful coma on Sundays.
Yeah.
Where I would just do absolutely nothing, no matter what, so that Monday I would be, relaxed or whatever. I was never relaxed though. I'd always feel like shit on Monday.
So medically, you went into an induced coma.
Yeah.
So they said, and so exactly what this says many of us develop a feeling of trepidation on Sunday evening as it approaches, and we start to worry about how we'll manage the workload for the week ahead. But if you surround yourself with family and friends and share a meal, you can bring joy and satisfaction to your Sunday nights. And so he essentially talked about how I think many families used to do this Sunday supper, or you'd have Sunday
By the way,
dinner.
when you say supper, I always assume supper is something like in the 5 o'clock zone.
I'd say 5, 6, 7. So here's the great thing about why he picked Sunday. He didn't do it for religious reason. Yeah. He said it is the end of the week, though it's the first day of the week. It's the end of the week, and he said that it's a school night, so it doesn't necessarily mean
cut off. Yeah,
you start early, you're done early. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get blotto drunk, or it doesn't have to involve cocktails. It's not formal. Just come over for supper. And Kate used to do this, and we used football as an excuse. The Mahonies would do it. Mary would do it. Everybody would host
Casual.
a Sunday. It was come as you are. We would pick. You bring a salad, you bring a dessert, and really just visit with friends, and kind of take the edge off of I dread Monday.
The Sunday Scaries, as Garrett just
Scary.
said.
So I love the idea. I know the way your schedule is. I don't know if you could do it because you're usually
we could.
traveling on Sunday nights though.
Well, if we come home we could easily get back to the city at 6.
Would you have people over for dinner?
Yeah, and I like this. Of course, he is selling a cookbook, and the cookbook is called "See You on Sunday." Whoa, surprise! See you on Sunday, a new cookbook. I like the article though.
Simple recipes that he had in there. We used football. When we used to do football at Kate's, what I used to love about it was, so I'm in Philly, so whatever the team was that the Eagles were playing, that would be the theme for the supper that day.
Really?
So if they were playing Texas, we would do some sort of either beef or barbecue, or they're doing San Francisco, we'd do seafood, or whatever this city was, we would try to find what the meal would be.
No, I like this idea because it keeps you further away from that moment where you're like, oh, tomorrow I have to be on again. And I guess that's the problem that I have if I have a problem with the weekend at all, it's like, by the time we all get to Friday we're all checking out, right?
Yep.
Friday, 4 o'clock or whatever, 5, you're just like, okay, we're done. Saturday is almost like this delightful free zone because everybody has a Saturday. We used to work on Saturdays, though. Remember, our schedule was very
Or
different.
Sunday was a Saturday.
Yeah, and then Sunday comes along, and I'm fine and I'm good. And then around 2 or 3 o'clock, I begin to look at my pad, or I'll begin to think, like, should I, like, kind of do a plan for what I want to get done? And then the mind starts doing its crazy crap.
Because it always tells you to plan the day before.
Plan the day before, yeah.
What I liked about this is said, don't worry if your house is messy. This is not a dinner party. You don't need sprays of flowers. You don't need music. You don't need cocktails. It's just getting people together and having a meal and enjoying each other's company. And it's a school night, so you're done early. I think it's a good idea.
I do, too. I don't know if it would stop me from having the Sunday Scaries, but it might postpone it a bit. And Monday for me, Mondays, I don't know when that... By the way, back when we used to do satellite, Monday was never kind of the problem that it was today. That's because you said something interesting. We work Saturday.
Right.
And we weren't done. You didn't get home till 5:30. I got upstate 6 o'clock.
Right.
So Sunday was really our Saturday, and Monday was really our Sunday. So maybe, and Tuesday to me always felt like just a jolly fine day. Tuesday's a Tuesday, so I skipped that whole. For years, I missed out on the scary Sundays and the Monday blues.
See, I always learned when I was in the auto business, Mondays were traditionally to yourself, particularly until noon. You knew never to call anybody, never to really contact anybody, because it was about either reaching and talking to the retailers or the dealers to find out how business was
for the weekend,
weekend, and then getting the sales data in and getting your week plans. So what you would do on Sunday night, really we would do on Mondays. You would plan your travel, plan a lot of things around based upon what happened over the weekend prior. So I never really had I don't think I ever had the Sunday Scaries. I think probably toward the end of my time, I had Saturday, Friday. I had Friday Scaries.
That was just
for Monday.
That was dread.
Dread.
The overarching emotion was dread. So I was visiting my mom 2 weekends ago, and she comes down to the kitchen because she had slept late or something, and I was at the laptop, and she said, "Are you working?" I said, "Yeah," and she said, "Well," she goes, "Do you work all the time?" And I actually laughed, and I said, it's a great question because you and I do. Like, I told her how I have like 8 or 9 hours a day, but it's broken up. It's a call. It's maybe I don't have something to do for a while, and that's maybe when I'll go to the gym, but then I'm working till 7
And you're
or
on
8.
a laptop at 8 o'clock until midnight.
Yeah. Last night I tried this thing where, like, after I was done with the day, I was done with the day. And a book came in the mail that I ordered that I liked. I thought it was going to be more picture heavy, but it's a lot of words, but I'll read it. But and the book is called Design and Typography in Science Fiction Movies. And so they look at all these different sci-fi films and how the art directors design the screens people use.
I think that'd be full of pictures.
It is, but it's also full of a lot of type. I thought it was just be big art book pictures like
just my type guy on.
Oh my God! I found that book.
Did he have a book?
He autographed my copy.
Just my type.
So years ago, when we were on satellite, we used to Laura was the PR woman who handled publishing.
Yeah.
And we were one of the rare shows that we were like, send us authors, we'll talk
Whoever.
to them. And my first job out of school was as a typographer, a typesetter and a typographer. And I love type. And he does this book comes through, and it's called Just My Type. And it was the history of typography. I was like, this is fantastic. And Tim's like, okay, you can book him.
It's like, anytime we want.
He's free. Free.
And the scary thing about those sort of interviews then were, I'm not sure there was a lot of vetting going on at Sirius, nor was we had to fill 45 minutes of an interview. So if the interview had to be 45 minutes long, right, you had to fill that clock, that 2-hour time frame.
And if you finished the interview in 3 minutes, you were kind of...
What are you going to do?
You're kind of, screwed. So this guy comes in, Laura's there, his publicist comes in, we all get copies of the book. He sits down, and Tim's going to launch with his surefire question, which I would ask anybody who was a fan of typography. And Tim's like, hey, we're talking to so-and-so, and his new book is out. And you're like, what's your favorite typeface? And the answer was the telltale for the rest of the interview. And I don't mean to be rude, but he pauses and he goes, well, he goes, Palatino. We're like, Palatino. And then we realized that and if he was not nervous, he didn't stutter as much, but he did often stutter, which is not a problem, but it was hard to conduct the interview.
And I blamed the publicist and the PR people because we would have prepared differently.
Oh, we would have
And to put the guy in that position, I
In
didn't
a
think it was
spot,
fair.
yeah.
And it put us in a position which was not fair because we were having an interesting, honest conversation with him. But the guy, either you could have set him at ease or it would have been different. And he had all the PR and handlers and serious people with him. That's happened to us a few times with those characters. Because I think right after that we had Tabitha Coffey.
Oh my God,
It
we
was
did.
boom, boom, boom. We did a bunch of
And
interviews.
Tabitha came in, and she was hilarious. Yeah. And by the way, he did do a good interview.
Yeah.
He did speak smartly about why he wrote the book and the history behind a lot of what he wrote about. But as you said, had we been alerted to that, we might have structured it differently to have a lot of personal stuff. Just
It's
kind
like that guy that came in while you were in the bathroom that was on the Spectrum, and he wrote this book, and I started, while you were in the restroom, before we went on, I started asking him questions, and he looks at me and says, please don't ask me any direct questions.
And then I walk in, and we're going to go on air.
You're here for an interview. About your book, you don't want any direct questions.
Now, Garrett used to work right across the hall from
You
us.
didn't even know because literally it was like Katie's like 3, 2, 1, you're
and
on.
I
I'm
didn't.
like,
Yeah.
John, I'm trying to type into the screen like this one doesn't want to answer questions.
And the guy went nonverbal. The minute the red lights go on, he went nonverbal. Did you have stuff like that going on in your studio?
Just bad guests or like
Just surprising guests.
surprising? A lot of times, Jay Thomas had callers or people on the phone or something like that. It was rarely people in, because he wasn't even in studio.
Oh, wow.
He was in California and he would
Oh, so you're doing
ISDN
it through ISDN.
So we didn't
okay.
need to have guests come in the studio because then it's even weirder. They're sitting there talking to some guy not there. So most of the time we had callers, and his whole show was mostly the weirdest guest. The guy with the biggest ball of yarn type of stuff like that. So we had a ton of that stuff.
A guy with the biggest ball of yarn. So when did you start collecting yarn? Yeah, when I was little.
Garrett, that's great. The Jay Thomas show. Yeah. The biggest tinfoil ball in the world. Or like,
We had one guy was like pulling teeth, and then at the end of the interview, he kind of very, harumps to John and I should have my own show. And we looked at him and we're like, well, first you have to talk.
A, prerequisite number one.
I should have my own show.
I should have my own show.
Really? Because you didn't answer, you didn't talk. Yeah, we've had some fun interviews.
Well, and my favorite was, of course, the guy that came on. The pre-interview, oh boy, we were going to have a roller coaster ride like no one's
Just
business.
some stationary designer.
It was going to be stories about this and some.
Oh, yeah, had all kinds of stories.
Time he slept with some woman's like fiance, blah,
sister's
blah, blah.
fiance,
And
yeah.
the lights go on, and it's kind of like Patsy on Ab Fab, right? You can never have too many hats, gloves, and shoes. Darling, she just said accessories, but all she did was hats, gloves, and shoes, right? 40 minutes of this.
Yeah, he had a whole list of questions for us to ask him. And then as we started asking him, he's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Or like, how's your business doing? Fine.
Fine.
Anything new coming on? A new line's coming out in 2 months. And you big tap, tap, tap. I was going to go Bueller. Which, by the way, I just want to mention, I told Tim this. When I was visiting my mom, we saw a great documentary on John Hughes and the making of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I had no idea that the movie had a lot of improv that made it to the screen.
Really?
That there was a whole other side to the Ferris character that got cut in the editing room.
What was it? Was
He wasn't such a nice character, meaner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but he became lovable and adorable because of the way they edited the film, right? And then the cast, the day before shooting, John Hughes is like, I've got the wrong cast. He freaked out. Broderick, they're like, I can't, because Matthew came in to do a wardrobe test, and in the past, all wardrobe tests were just him standing in front of a camera with the costume on. John Hughes is expecting them to interact and be the characters. He didn't see it. He panicked. Everybody calmed him down, and the rest is history.
Wow. I always love looking or seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Amazing. My mom was transfixed.
What was that, on cable or something?
It was on cable. It was on Vice, actually. But that documentary's out. It's like an hour and a half for broadcast. I mean, there's ads in there.
I wanted to see the it's on HBO, which I don't have, but it was the Ralph Lauren documentary.
Oh, that sounds good.
Have you seen that? It's about 90 minutes, I guess. But people say it's interesting, but I don't have HBO.
By the way, the Dunk-a-Shane,
Yeah.
the parade. That was planned to be earlier in the movie, and when they shot it, they put a little thing in the Chicago paper, extras needed for this thing. 10,000 people show up. And what you see on camera, the twist and shout,
Right.
that's all real, and there's a quick little cut to some construction worker up on a scaffolding dancing.
thing, yeah.
Totally random. The camera
Really?
just swung up, got him. They used him in the movie.
I had no idea.
That's
funny.
why the behind the scenes is so cool, right?
Wow.
All right, so Sunday supper. Long way to recap. Sunday supper will help you chase away the Sunday Scaries, as Garrett called it. Love that one. All right, thanks for joining us today, folks. We want to thank Fiverr, Fiverr.com, for joining us here on the show. If you want to do a project and it's your first project, use the code FOCUS, F-O-C-U-S, to get 10% off that first project. And again, you can search by service, deadline, price, reviews, and it's copywriting, design, logo development, video editing, a whole range of stuff. So it's Fiverr.com. And we want a big thanks to Deep Discount. Go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo, which is a shark, and it's the Shark Madness sale. The release this week is Bombshell, which is a cool movie with Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie. It recounts the entire Megyn Kelly incident from Fox when she filed charges basically against Roger Ailes, who's played by John Lithgow. I picked Logan's Run, a sci-fi classic, and Tim picked National Lampoon's Vacation and European Vacation, doubleheader, also directed by John Hughes, we were just talking about. Don't text and drive, arrive alive, and we'll see you in the new week.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.